discuss about who is going to read the first proposition?
Yes.
Yeah?
It's going to be hard.
Okay, then you stand up and then you read, take the microphone, which is on already. You read the proposition and then you sit down.
Okay. And will they say, can you read proposition something? Or
Yeah, they will ask it. Yeah. Then you start and you read. Then after 1 hour, the chair invites you to go back to your seat. You let him go first, always, and then you follow and go also back to your seat.
Okay.
That's the end of the first part. Then we have a second part, which is a diploma ceremony. The chair invites you to stand in front of the committee, and you should stand on this S, in the circle here, the S, and you stand behind him.
Okay.
In a triangle formation. So maybe we can practice that first. Yeah. A little bit more close. Yeah, like this. This is perfect. Yeah. This can last some time, 10 minutes. Now it depends on how long the speech will be.
Yeah.
At a certain moment you take the diploma from the promoter. You hold it for the photo and then you go back, because after that there will be a speech, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, and then at a certain moment the chair tells you to go back to your seat. That's the end of the formal part. Then we have a small informal part. I will give the members online the possibility to give the congratulations.
All right.
The others can do it at the reception. And first we make a photo there under the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, with all, then you can see everybody take the photo. Yeah. And then after that, when everything, after all the members online have given their congrats, I give you the floor for
For speech.
very short
Okay.
moment. Yeah, you can take some people.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
And then we start to celebrate. But first, some work to do.
Yes.
I'm standing and sitting.
Yes.
Success and enjoy.
Thank you.
Someone will bring some books because the committee members already asked.
I mean, before the committee
Yes.
comes, or?
So they are.
It's when the defense starts, right? Like I'm not sure when the committee will be. Then we come here. So I'm not sure. I don't think it's mandatory for the committee during the meeting to be present there.
Yeah.
So it's just at 3 we have to, like 2:58 we have to come and sit here. I think.
Yeah, I was wondering why you guys just come to work anyway.
No, they haven't been finished.
We just walk behind very quickly.
How are you? All good. How about you? Yeah. So you say something smart.
Is it real?
All right, so I'm going to start this layman talk. So thank you for guys for being here. So this layman talk is quite short. I decided to give this talk in 2 parts. So first part is in English, so you all guys can understand. The second part I'm gonna do it in Portuguese, so my family from Brazil and my friends can also understand that. So welcome to my presentation. So the thesis is about examining the effectiveness of collaborative search engines. So we all have been using collaborative search in our lives. So, but most of the times we also do it alone but we don't see this happening that often. But these are situations that our collaborative search experience happen. So when we are traveling somewhere, we are doing collaborative searches. When we are shopping together just with someone, we are also doing collaborative search. Working and also learn together, where we're also going to see like group projects and so on. For doing these collaborative searches, we often use 3 types of tools that we call. So first, the main part is search, or you can see here that we can use common search engines like Google, Bing, or like DuckDuckGo. But also if you're doing specific tasks, we use like travel websites like Booking.com, Expedia, and for shopping like Amazon, Zalando, and so on. And when we find the results that we matter when we are searching together with someone, we often share them. And we need to create, if the task is quite complex, we need to create some sort of like common representation of that, what we're sharing. So we do that via Google Docs, for example, Overleaf, or sharing the notes with Evernote. But besides that, we also need to communicate about what we are finding and how to select those documents or the finds that we find. So things, for example, the tools that we use like Slack, WhatsApp, or Microsoft Teams. In this thesis, we are interested in looking to use collaborative search, but only like it's a system where we have everything integrated, as you can see here. In my thesis, we built SearchX, where you can find the common things like in web search engines, like search results, and sharing the documents with someone else, and even though also communicating with people. For doing that, and we built this thesis where the main question is, when is collaborative search effective? Because not all the time that we want to do collaborative searches this happens that we are able to do that. So to understand answer this question, we divided this in 2 parts. The first part, we look to the group characteristics, like group dynamics, like group size. So the chapter 3 is about how increase the groups in collaborative search. So if you go from 2 to 3 or 4 people, how good the system support increasing the group size in collaborative search. The second part is where you look for users' roles. For example, if someone in the group is responsible more for searching and the other person is more responsible for examining the documents and so on. So this is the first part of the thesis where we actually look at the group. And the second part of the thesis, we look at the tasks that we can do with collaborative search systems. So we look specifically to two tasks. One is search as learning, where we want to see what are the trade-offs of people searching and learning together. And in the second part, we look to collaborative line shopping, and where we provide a system where we are able to synchronize all the shopping items that people find and make a decision together. All right, so this is a part where I'm going to speak now in Portuguese. Essa tese é a respeito de examinando a eficácia de máquinas de busca colaborativas. Muitas vezes a gente usa máquina de busca sozinho tem várias vezes onde que a gente também usa máquina de busca junto com outras pessoas. Essas tarefas, por exemplo, planejamento de viagens, compras, trabalho e aprendizado. Quando a gente faz trabalhos em grupos, por exemplo. Para fazer busca colaborativa, normalmente a gente usa 3 tipos de ferramentas. E essas ferramentas têm a parte principal, buscar, onde que você usa Google, Bing ou outras máquinas de busca. E quando a gente acha os resultados da máquina de busca, a gente quer compartilhar aqueles documentos que a gente achou. Então a gente usaria Google Docs e por aí vai. E quando você acha aqueles documentos da sua busca, você tenta compartilhar.
So you can just, start the Portuguese once more. I'm not sure how to do the join now here.
Not sure. I think everything was.
I think version, but not quite the version has to do it. I'm not sure what.
Yes, I'm
Sim.
someone who's responsible for
Uh,
the machines.
I think he said we are online.
We checked on the Teams. It's not yet.
Oh.
So you just do the Portuguese once more, right? Like
Yeah.
this one from the start.
That's
Because
weird.
this is, you see, you have to press join now.
Okay. Okay. They say that we are online. Can you check? Do you have the link for the stream? Yeah, if you open, does it show? No? No.
In the Teams, this one. Okay.
Oh, so.
We put in
So you can see the presentation.
Yeah, sure.
Oh. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. I'm continuing the Portuguese part here. Como eu estava falando, você tem as máquinas de busca, geralmente tem essa característica de você poder compartilhar os seus dados. E nessa tese a gente olha para a máquina de busca onde que realmente a gente consegue compartilhar isso ao mesmo tempo. E onde você tem os típicos resultados de busca, também com compartilhamentos, mas também como comunicação. Você pode compartilhar e também conversar com outras pessoas. Eu dividi essa tese em 2 partes. A primeira parte, eu trato sobre as características dos grupos, onde primeiro, no capítulo 3, eu vou no tamanho do grupo, para avaliar, para ver qual é o impacto do tamanho do grupo usando o sistema. Em seguida, os papéis dos usuários. E se tem um usuário, por exemplo, que está buscando mais que o outro e examinando os documentos. E na segunda parte da tese, eu vou olhar as tarefas específicas que você pode fazer com busca colaborativa. Que um exemplo é busca, a gente levou como busca com aprendizado, e a segunda parte como compras online colaborativas. Agora a gente vai esperar o resultado até 3 horas, onde começa o resultado oficial. Obrigado. So we're now going to wait until 3 o'clock. So we all have to wait. Thank you.
I saw you one of those.
After summer, and then we had 2 days. Yeah, it was also, I think it was, I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday, it was really late. At the end they were like, it's not like, not even most of the house.
Yeah, I was at the office.
How's the work going? Yeah, it's always.
I just started again now. 15th of April and then I'm just waiting.
Probably a good time to go, right? Because now I guess in case you had like nice weather already, whereas here it's still
Yeah. The weather started to become better.
I also need some vacation. I had 3 deadlines to meet already.
2022.
No, 2022, I had already taken. It was great. It was great to see there. But if you want to take some time. Yeah, it started to be I mean, I always kind of work with IBM because they have like PhD. I had this like 3 months period where I was in the project with IBM. So, I guess I'm technically I'm really not used to coming to work. I don't like it. I have now 3 books written. I don't know if I because I live in I think maybe long term I will come once every 2 weeks because I like to stay in touch with everyone. But in terms of productivity, I stay in touch with I've never even been here. It's like the first time I just was young. But also that's right.
Yeah. That's why I was here in Zoom.
Quite excited to see how he will do. Is it 1 hour or 45 minutes? Because I always thought it was more including 6 days.
So if I were like first 2 months, say like first Ik open de zitting van de commissie ter beoordeling van het proefschrift en de stellingen van Felipe Moraes Gomes, Master of Science in Computer Science. I request the promovendus to take his position behind the lectern and the parliaments in front of the lectern. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start with introducing the committee members to you. And first of all, I would like to welcome Dr. Murdoch from Amazon in the USA. Welcome. And secondly, Professor Krutschwitz from the University of Regensburg in Germany. Welcome as well. And then here in the committee room on my very right, Professor Hiemstra from the Radboud Universiteit in Nijmegen. Then back to the online committee members, Professor Cesar Garcia from the TU Delft, from the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Mathematics and Computer Sciences. So the other members are also from that faculty. Professor Specht is also with us online. Welcome. And then the promoters on my right, Dr. Hauff, and on my left, Professor Huben. I'm Professor Van Breugel. I'm from the Faculty of Civil Engineering and Geosciences, and it is my pleasure and honor to chair this session on behalf of the Rector. I would now like to open the opposition, and for that I will invite the first opponent, Dr. Murdoch. The floor is yours.
Mein Herr Director, I have a question about Proposition 6.
Waarde promovendus or parliaments may invite you to read out proposition number 6.
Spanish is the next language to become a universal language after the downfall of English.
So the premise is that there will be a downfall or a decline of English. And you may remember that typically English colonizes other languages by absorbing them. So we've already started with words like gracias and burrito and salsa, chalupa, fajita, banana. And given this, how do you propose that Spanish will ever take over?
Zeer geleerde opponent. Thank you for your question. So my main concern with your idea is that English is going to incorporate Spanish. So for what I understood, so you have words, for example, as burrito, as I say, that was not part of the English language before, and now it is, right? So this happens with any language. In this proposition, what I'm trying to defend is as Spanish is becoming an even more spoken language in North America, for example, as you can see that in many schools in North America, you can see Spanish as a main choice of the second language for many of the Americans. You can see this as one language that is promising to be take over English. So another fact is that you have a large population of Spanish speakers that after, and as we know, English is nowadays being spread over because of the imperial that America was over the world. So before that, English was not the most spoken language. So these are my arguments in favor of these propositions.
You are on mute, please.
Vardo promovendus, switching topics. I have a question about the section on collaborative shopping, the chapter on collaborative shopping. So I'm wondering what customer problem does collaborative shopping solve?
Zeer geleerde opponent. Thank you for your question. So the main problem that this chapter is taking is the fact that we have search experience where people search together. So for example, you have a household where they for example search for high consumer items, for example, television, and items, for example, like their furniture, and those are items that they have to take more time to think, or they have to explore more the search results. So that means that it's not just one search, for example, at Amazon, like the first search result page, but a whole session together looking for like one item to buy.
So people do collaboratively search. I mean, I can think of examples in my own family, but we don't usually do it in the same session with the same screen or even two screens. We typically do it asynchronously. So I'm wondering, given that people do these things asynchronously over time, especially with a high consideration purchase where, you gather information over many days, many weeks sometimes to make a decision, how would this collaborative system, which is depending on people sitting down at the same time and doing the search together, how would this apply for that? How does this apply for that scenario?
Yeah. Really the opponent. Thank you for your question. One part of this of your concern as I understand is that when you have club shopping, usually you have async situations. As part of this thesis, we look at many type of tasks, as you know. So one of them was as well learning. And learning is one example of collaborative search that also can happen in an async manner and not only synchronized. In this thesis, we focus only on the synchronized tasks, and so that was our main focus of this Given that, I understand that the club shopping has parts that are synchronized and asynchronized as well. So for analyzing this part of the system, or how effective we were to provide a better experience, we focus only on the synchronized part and measuring what we could measure when you have a task where mainly synchronized.
Okay, and so I'm thinking of, there are many companies that have tried this kind of synchronized collaborative experience. So I'm thinking of Netflix, which had watch parties where you could get together and watch a show together, and your viewing of the show was synchronized, and then you could presumably chat. And this was widely proposed, and people they put a lot of money into enabling that, and people didn't engage with that. Why do you think that people don't engage with synchronous collaborative sessions when in viewing shopping or media or any of these things, these types of systems?
Zeer the opponent. One aspect of this kind of system is make them to be easy for these people, right? So one idea of this thesis were when you do collaborative shopping or other collaborative search experience, you often go to many types of tools that to provide that. As you say that a Netflix party is one of them where you can actually do it together. In this thesis, we focus on getting a system where everything is integrated. So, for example, with SearchX, we invest in other collaborative search systems. They take care of that everything that you have there. You are able to provide awareness between the users and also share of knowledge and division of labor. One aspect of this is how researchers have found that those systems, when they provide all these three pillars for collaborative search experience, we are able to provide we can be able to provide a better experience. I'm not aware if the ones that you cited, for example, Netflix Party, provide those all three pillars, so people are aware that they are watching together, for example, or if they are able to for example, share that they're doing that. Thank you.
Okay, and then so the final thing, and this is some of the conclusions in that chapter in particular, were that it leads to fewer purchases, fewer relevant items. It doesn't affect the purchase decision or the post-purchase satisfaction. So it seems like it's not useful for people to do these things collaborative. And I'm wondering, what this would be useful. So what are the scenarios, given all of that, because the goal of shopping ultimately is to make a purchase, or at least to view relevant items. Given that, what is the situation in which this would be useful, and are there other types of collaborative systems people do engage with when they're shopping, such as shopping lists that would have, that this would have applications to?
Okay, this is a lead opponent. One system that we think about investigate was audit, or we can, for example, switch or not switch the aspect how you share the session with them. So, for example, in one of our findings that people, when they do everything synchronized, they're gonna see less items than or they're gonna explore more than they synchronize. So all the way around. And this doesn't correspond to achieving a better purchase satisfaction, right? So another variant for this experiment could have also be let people to choose if they want to have a synchronized session or a non-synchronized session, right? So this other types of system that allows you to choose, it would be a promising system.
Okay. Vardo Promovendus, I just have one final comment or a set of comments, and that is that I wanted to compliment you on the thesis. It was extremely well written, it was engaging, it was enjoyable to read, and it was extremely complete and very thorough and well thought out, and I want to say that I very much appreciated the thesis itself. Mein Herr Director, I'm satisfied with the answers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murdoch, for contributing to the opposition. And I would like to proceed to give the floor to Professor Kručvić.
Varde Promovendus, I just want to start by picking up on what was said before. It was a real pleasure to read the thesis, and in particular to have the final thesis in my hands. It looks very professional. Clearly, I can also see the handwriting of David Maxwell in there in the style and format. So I do have a number of questions, but I want to pick up on one of the questions that was just discussed before. So there's some issue around how much use it is to have this collaborative search support when you're doing things in your spare time, in your private environment and so on. And the experiments clearly indicate that there is maybe not much scope in there. So how about an enterprise environment where you don't do this for fun, but simply out of necessity? So can you think of examples where collaborative search is maybe the way forward to solve problems within a work context?
Okay, lead opponent. Thank you for your question. I understand your point about the enterprise collaborative search. So this is indeed one example of many collaborative search experiences that we can have in the enterprise. One example is, as we try to simulate, is in chapter 3, where we have our journalism task. So in this task, we ask, and they are not journalists of course, but we ask them to play the role of a journalist, and they have to find documents where they can write an article about, right? So in journalism, you often don't work alone. This is a typical situation, and I would say this also fits your enterprise environment, where you do have to find documents that you find that are very relevant in a short time for a task. Another example of enterprise here would be, for example, when you're for example, software development, which is also part of it. So when you're searching for documentation, and you also have to do that together. So these are examples of enterprise that I can find that I have seen doing my literature review in the collaborative search.
Varde Promovendus, thank you. But in these contexts, I think the roles are maybe not as explicitly distinguishable between the different players. I was thinking more of examples where you have someone who's an expert in one area and somebody who plays a role assigned to him or her in a different area. So you have somebody in sales and somebody in research and development, and you have somebody who's been around for a long time and is a network administrator. So I was thinking about this type of task that might actually bring these different people together. So can you think of something there?
Hooggeregeerde opponent. As I understood, like you have examples where people have different roles in your group, right? So when you have an enterprise where you have people with different, so if you have like a manager or like a normal employee and they also work together on this aspect, right? So this is indeed one of typical tasks in collaborative search, but in my literature review, there is also like one aspect where roles in collaborative search, and these roles they also play a big part, as you can see. That you have dedicated an entire chapter to that. This search with roles, we are aware that people have different roles in the system, right? So looking back to chapter 4 where we played roles, we see that people would have different roles in searching. So this I believe is an example. When you have like a sales representative, as you mentioned, where they have to report back to their managers, this is also an example of collaborative search. So I agree with those examples.
Okay, Wade Promovendas, thanks a lot. Time flies like an arrow, so let me just ask one more question. In your discussion of crowdsourcing, so on page 33, you say you have conducted a lot of experiments all using the crowdsourcing paradigm, and it turns out that this is such an active research area on its own, crowdsourcing, that as you went through the process of running all these studies, things were developing and things were happening and you were learning things. If we were to ask you to run another experiment, for example, how would you go about designing this to avoid any sort of ad hoc assumptions, settings, so in terms of quality assurance, aggregation of results, sampling, recruitment, any of those things? So any sort of takeaway messages from what you have done and what you know now about crowdsourcing?
Hooggeregeerde opponent, thank you for your question. So as you mentioned, we started running experiments with crowdsourcing, especially with crowdsourcing for collaborative search, which is indeed something that we haven't experienced before. And myself, that was also new for me, doing this kind of experiment. We learn on the go, and there are many takeaways that you can take from this. There are typical takeaways from crowdsourcing, where I wish I had also had learned more before about this, but we also learn a lot on the go. So as you mentioned, the compliance is very important here. So another aspect of compliance as well is that platforms change a lot. So we didn't start only from, for example, the main platform that we used was Prolific in this thesis, but we start from Cloudflower or Figure 8 that was before, and there we didn't find the compliance. So one takeaway, first takeaway, is that compliance also changed according to the platform that you're using here, and depends on the experiment that you're running, you should take care of them. The second point is as well that when you're running collaborative search, you really need more time for your experiments. So sometimes we give them our collaborative crowdsource users, like for example 10 minutes for them to wait, and playing the waiting time for grouping and finding members that they could work together is very hard. So this is be careful with for example, how much time you wait is going to affect your experiment. So because of time, I think these are the two takeaways that I would like to point out specifically to collaborative search crowdsourcing experiments.
Wade Promovendas, thank you very much. Mein Herr Director, I'm very happy with all the answers and I pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kručvić, for your contribution. I would like to proceed to give the floor to Professor Hiemstra. Please use your microphone, please.
Dank u wel, meneer director. Waarde promovendus, let me first congratulate you on finishing a very interesting thesis. I learned a lot while reading the thesis, and I think it's a very original and very systematic way to bring together interactive retrieval based on for instance, on crowdsourcing with Prolific. Also with the existing test collections that we've used a lot in our work. I'm also very impressed by the SearchX system. That's actually excellent work, and I hope it will be taken up by other researchers in the field. So my first question is about how you use the track collections, for instance, the robust collections, which indeed has this journalist scenario, right? Like find me documents that help me write an article about, and then there's something the topic of the search. So you chose to measure the success of the collaborative search by checking if the group of people found the relevant documents from the robust collection. Is that right?
Hooggewaardeerd opponent, bedankt voor vragen. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and and that's also on page 49. You said the retrieval effectiveness is the union of the sets of documents that each collaborator saved in comparison with the documents provided by track. And I was wondering there, we already talked about scenarios with shopping. So what scenario would it correspond to? So I have this group of journalists, they come up with documents, and then there's this second check with the track relevance judgments. And how would that fit with your scenario?
Ja, bedankt voor, hooggewaardeerde opponent, bedankt voor de vragen. Yes, so in this, as you mentioned, in this thesis we do use a track robust as a data collection. Robust, as we all have been using, provides a high quality judgments from track. So in this, for analyzing how able our users, the group of users, were able to find the task and documents, we use the relevant documents here. So based on the ground truth, where we believe that those are the most relevant documents, and we trust that track provides us the judgments, we find that, okay, now can we analyze how able are users in to find alone those documents, or alone or together those documents. As you know, when track runs an assessment of those documents, there is a thorough process, right? So there they don't only ask for 2 people to judge those documents, but more than 1 people. When you have collaborative search, for example, you do have more people. What is different in this thesis is that when someone pick one document that they find that is relevant, we consider that is one document that they picked and the group agree. Another aspect that you could have in collaborative search is that you have one document and people have to agree that that document is relevant, right? So if you had this another level, we could also analyze this in another level of agreement to the documents.
Yeah, if I may interrupt, in one of the settings where the people chat, for instance, I assume that's what happens, that they discuss. Like, I found this, what do you think? And that someone might say, yeah, I agree, this is a good document, or they might not agree. Or is that also what you saw in the experiments?
I didn't. Depends on each chapter. I didn't go through all the conversations itself. If they produce, okay, are we agreeing or not agreeing with the document with documents? So one chapter that we did do that, for example, was chapter 4, where we have like roles people have to agree. So we have a number of for example, messages where they talk about coordination, right? We did see a difference in coordination, but there the specific part was looking at the roles of people, and they do talk about how they coordinate. Do we find this document or not? For some of the variants in the system, for example, we saw they say like, okay, let's remove those documents that one of them found that it was relevant, and then, but we did see this behavior happening.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I think it's also interesting because we know from previous work where, for instance, the people from TREC, like Ellen Voorhees, did double judgments that the agreement on what is a relevant document is really low.
Yeah.
So that in some of the studies, the overlap of the relevant documents of two assessors that they both agree on compared to all of the documents that they found is less than 50%. So I was wondering if you use like precision and recall based on the TREC collections, are you also mostly measuring how much your participants agree with the TREC assessors?
Yeah, hooggerede opponent. I also think that there is a bias towards the TREC judgments, of course. So there is, you can another word say that we are trying to evaluate how can we approach to the TREC assessors. So here, we can see in the way that you're trying to approach from the TREC assessors or approach from the ground truth, or that TREC also provides a document collection, evaluation collection for us to evaluate systems, right? So this is another point of view.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Thanks. I'd like to follow up a bit on that. Maybe in chapter 5, you're doing a very different evaluation. So you don't have those relevant judgments for the Amazon data.
For chapter 5.
Or maybe it's I'm confusing with chapters, but with the shopping okay. Experiment.
Indeed.
So and there you use you write in the thesis we employed a range of evaluation measures commonly employed in interactive IR without very precisely specifying what that is. But you measured like number of clicks and viewing time and post-purchase satisfaction. Mm-hmm. Would it have been possible to also use those kinds of measures on the previous chapters with the TREC collection? And how would you go about doing that?
Okay. Hooggerede opponent. If I understood your question, you're talking about the IR, the interaction retrieval metrics that we mentioned in the chapter of the shopping, where we say like clicks and so on. In the previous chapters, we also evaluate, at least we explore the behavior of those users, and we using the same metrics, for example, clicks, as you mentioned. So we don't take them as an evaluator factor. Okay, are we getting more clicks from one variant to the other as being more effective? But we only explore the behavior to give some indication.
Yeah, you're right. But something like the post-purchase satisfaction would because I would assume that the collaborators in the experiment are maybe happy or not with what they found.
Indeed, in all our studies, we do a post evaluation of the results of the final task, right? So we report those, I believe, at the end of the chapter. So those are more user research, but we don't take them as exactly for evaluation purpose. Mm-hmm. But we do let them. We have in the thesis that, okay, for example, we ask how were their experience and how difficult were the task. So this was part of all the experiments.
Yeah, exactly. And so if we turn that around, I think you used the Amazon collection that was crawled by Julian Macaulay.
Exactly.
There's some papers where Macaulay also uses relevant judgments for questions on reviews and on, would it be possible to use some of those techniques to also measure the precision and recall compared to some ground truth on that collection? That's
so,
maybe a bit
yeah.
far-fetched.
Co-lead opponent, if I understood it, you mentioned that the collection also contained, for example, reviews, and we could also use those kind of information from the collection to try to, well, get not the ground truth, but from those kind of information.
Yeah.
I do believe that for this kind of task that we had was an open task, right? So where for this chapter specifically, the shopping, the idea was if you have a task, for example, you have to choose one item or one category of items to search, then you go through it. But for that you don't essentially need a ground truth collection, right? So this is more like how they actually at the end really perceive the whole experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so the first scenario is there's really maybe an editor that gives a job to do, and it's, yeah, okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, thank you very much. That's an interesting. Director, do I have time for another question?
If it is a short question and the candidate can promise a short answer, it's fine.
Oh, I'm not sure if I can make it very short, but in all of the chapters you try to find difficult tasks, right? In chapter 3 and 4, I think you use the difficult topics from Robust, and that's a very objective measure. And then in chapter 5 you determine difficulty of vocabulary by asking people with a PhD in computer science. I was a bit, I wondered what. I know some people who have a PhD in computer science, and they have obviously very specific opinions about what is difficult and what is not. Why did you choose to make that as the measure of difficulty?
Co-lead opponent. For this, first we built the data collection with the most difficult words. So the idea was, given a topic, we are going to pick the most difficult words. And here is that you're evaluating how hard is a word in the English language. So if you have a PhD in computer science, they should have at least some level of English that's satisfactory, and they could judge if one of the words were difficult or not. Of course, there is a bias towards PhDs in computer science or other computer science students, but if you take out that we are evaluating the English language, how difficult is each word respect to English, then I would say that you decrease the bias.
So the computer science PhD is a proxy for knowing English.
Yes.
See. Okay.
Professor Hiemstra, are you satisfied with the answers?
Yes, I'm satisfied with the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And may I invite Professor Cesar Garcia to continue the opposition.
Ja, dank u wel, mijn heer director. Waarde promovendus. First, congratulations. I think you wrote a very good thesis about a very difficult topic. You have very complex tasks, and you have something even more difficult, that is people working together. So human beings working together in itself is quite a complex one. So I think that your thesis is very good. It provides good insights. My feeling, of course, is that you started not really knowing what you were doing, and then little by little you actually understood much more of it. But that's actually the path of a PhD candidate, so I think that's wonderful. In particular, your contribution for SearchX, I think, is a very, very important one, because those tools, they help the communities. It's just beyond science. So I'm going to ask you some questions about methodology, mostly. So I know that you were basically working and you had crowdsourcing. I counted around over 700 people that actually helped you write this thesis, which is quite a lot of people helping you writing a thesis. So my first question is more a reflection, right? You are actually asking people or giving people some money to do a task, that is not necessarily what they want to do anyway. It's just that they are getting paid to act as something. How good is that data? What do you think? Do you think that that data is reliable, is not reliable, is problematic? What do you think about that? Is more a general question, of course.
Hooggeachte opponent, thank you for your question. As we all know, so in this thesis we run from 3 of the 4 chapters crowdsourcing studies, right? And alongside of crowdsourced literature, you can find how reliable is the data that we collect and so on. We running these experiments, as I told before, like the compliance issue is really hard, especially when you're doing long time experiments. And this is a bit different from where you do crowdsourcing for like a single task, like a crowd worker can just go for 10 minutes and do the task. And I believe if the crowd worker they dedicate to spend like more time in the experiment, we are getting more reliable data. So I think this is indeed a different task in the case of getting like 1 hour and sometimes 1 hour and 20 minutes, some of them spend there. And I believe that at least from our results, we find that they were quite high quality.
And how would you compare all those experiments to the last one? Because indeed to me it was surprising, right? That I in the beginning I thought it was a crowdsourcing thesis, and then in the last one you get a virtual lab, which is nice to have actually. But then you are exposed to 2 different methodologies. I mean, even in the payments, right? I mean, you were paying maybe around £5 or something when the minimum wage in the UK is actually 7.38 anyway. And then you were paying like 12 euros. So it's a completely different environment. How you could compare both setups in terms of quality, in terms of difficult to set up, in terms of I mean, basically the science that you want and the results that you want to get out of your research?
Hooggeachte opponent. Comparing these 2 different tasks, when you go do club research and crowdsourcing, when you do virtual lab, as I said, when you're running a crowdsourcing experiment, you are less close to the participants, right? From the virtual lab experiments, I do have to communicate with them myself before agree and so on. So the difficulty in communication goes to my part, so time taken from my part, where from the crowdsourcing point of view, that then you have this distance, right? And I also believe that because of this distance, people get at least you get to know more about the task that you're evaluating, and you're getting more insights along the way, because you're actually closer to the participants. So this is the main difference, I would say.
And I have another question related to these methodologies, because at some point, I think it's in the beginning of the thesis, you mention a term that is user experience, but you term it as UER. And I'm coming from a human-computer interaction background in which user experience is actually UX, and it's very important. It's actually the most important one, and includes many more things. So how would you compare this UX with UER? I was actually surprised by the term, so I just picked it up because it was a new way of writing something that I assumed you mean something else. So how would you see the difference between UX and UER?
So UX here is the user experience itself without like that's my point of view. So if you have a UX, you are looking to the interface, looking how people separately go to the interface. For example, if you go to our results section, you see clicks and so on. So these are things that we could evaluate from the UX point of view. In terms of like as the user research, what I used, the URLs, it was more when you run experiments online, and for example, you have like A/B tests, and they have this type of experiments that I mentioned. So this is more like comparing this kind of online experiments that you run. So use a research experiment where we actually go to the little room and we are doing user research with the user experience research with those users. So we actually invite them to the lab and this kind of thing. And UX is more like the experience overall.
One of the functionalities that you added, and you mentioned it before, but I want to know more about what you think about it, is that you created a waiting room for some people, but also people didn't have the waiting room. So I was a bit concerned how comparative actually is the experience and the task of the two groups of participants, because I can imagine that, I mean, people is getting paid, they are waiting, probably they get frustrated, maybe, I don't know, I mean, I don't think you measure if they were frustrated or not, or anything extra. But do you think that that could have any influence on the actual results and data that you are getting? Because it was clearly, to me, two completely different conditions. So, I mean, basically, even in the workflow of your own experiment, is a different condition. So how do you think that affected or not, or what do you think about that particular waiting room?
Co-lead opponent. So when we design this study, we gave the instructions, or we invite them doing the crowdsource first, we make them know that there is a waiting room. And this is to, at first, reduce frustration, all right? So this was one thing that we make sure that they knew before. You might have to wait 10 minutes, or it was 10 minutes for both experiments. And after that, we also made sure that we paid fairly. It depends on if you're waiting for 10 minutes or not. So that's the second thing that we did. And the third thing is that when they are there in the waiting room, they are up to date. So they have a clock that here's the amount of time that you're spending here, and that's what is spent. And fourth, we provide them a little game so they can as well play while they're waiting. So all of this was intention to reduce frustration, reduce the bias when you have those two kind of groups, one that waited and one that didn't wait. One consequence of waiting, as you might have seen in the thesis, that a lot of groups, they really drop, or people drop during the task. And yeah, so this was one lesson that we had when we increase the group size, for example, that more, as you increase the group size, more people are waiting. So you have to be careful with that. So yeah, so that's my answer.
And just a last question. So, I mean, I think that the tool is a fantastic output. I really think so. So, can you detail a bit what was your role in terms of maybe ideation or design? I know that, I mean, it looks as if you were a recent PhD student, so basically you were doing development. That's for sure, because you arrived there and you started doing some development. But do you have as well some task on the more ideation, on the more design, on the more...
So, co-lead opponent. For SearchX, I took the lead development as is in one of my chapter. During the thesis, I do had the help of two kindly master students, and they together we also have like brainstorms on how we are gonna design this tool, what we're gonna develop. So this was very much part of like I was involved in also development, in taking the lead on what kind of things go inside. And I think it was for SearchX was a success, as you see that more people are using, and very well people can just add more stuff, and the design is still up to date.
Thank you. Excellent work. Thank you so much. I'm satisfied, Mike here, Director. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And Professor Specht, may I invite you to continue the opposition?
Bedankt, meneer Director. Waarde promovendus, thank you very much for your work. I enjoyed reading your work and seeing the results. I'm especially interested in your work on collaborative learning or search as learning. And the first question I have is about the design of roles. So in collaborative learning, or for example in inquiry-based learning, you typically have process models, and in these processes different roles appear. So I wonder a little bit, you describe in chapter 4, you describe different methods, how to design roles, how to split roles. So my first question is, how do you see it now after your experimentation on this topic? How would you design the roles for a collaborative search task? And what do you think is the influence of the different roles and how they could be shaped? And then second, related to that, is of course the outcome. So for example, in a lot of like role-based learning support, the outcome is often targeted that you understand a certain perspective on the task, and you take over these perspectives and become an expert in this part of the task. So how do you see this as an outcome measure now looking at search process?
Jorge, lead opponent. Thank you for your question. Thank you for pointing out that this the part of learning. So as you're expert in learning, and in this chapter, the chapter 5, we design an experiment where we have people searching alone and people searching together with someone. There we have like peers of users. So, well, if you consider peer as one role, is also aspect. When you have a group of people and they are, well, in this case they are learning together, right? So you end up having also roles. One example of running this experiment, so in chapter 4 we go for roles, and we go for roles where people, for example, have to search more for the collection, and the other one has to more examining. So when you have an example of learning as well, you also have some roles in this aspect, where someone in the group, they are more responsible for collecting, for example, the scientific articles, and then the other one is more to examine those articles, right? So for understood, the question is more like about how to design the roles in this sense for this experiment. And I would for learning specifically, I would go for learning roles, exactly. So we have many examples of these, like well-being roles are learning roles as well. So a lot of people in the literature has done from well-being point of view. And you can select, for example, who are roles in the lead in the group. So people are able to, those people that are responsible to coordinate, right? And your outcomes, about your outcome question, I'd like to clarify a little bit, if it's possible, on the outcome question.
It's a bit related also to the first one. I mean, often roles are used to develop a certain expertise. I take now a naive example, like to determine the right search words, for example, you will find differences between an expert and a novice in a domain, right? Because you have a different kind of taxonomy they have in mind when they choose those terms. So my question is a little bit into that direction. This expertise that is built by collaborative search, either by learning from another or doing it together with another person, how do you consider this also as an important outcome?
I see. So when you have an experiment with collaborative search, you say, like, if you compare an expert against if you put them an expert and a novice together, for example, you could also have like an outcome where the novice, like as an outcome, comes closer to the expert. Indeed. So this, if this is your question, one of a few papers in roles in collaborative search has looked at this, and we also find that when we did our literature review, that one side of this experiment that we could do is look at this. So if you have one expert and one novice, right? So the main difficulty here is to select the expert and like how many novices you want in the group. So if you think about one expert and like several novices, you are talking about the teacher-student roles, and this also happens in collaborative learning itself. So this is one outcome where the expected outcome when you have like expert and novice is that the novice come close to the expert in terms of learning. So they learn together, but they learn from the expert.
Yeah, yeah. I got a very short follow-up on that, if I may, meine Director. I was surprised actually by your results in figure 5.5, where if I interpret that data right, the CSE group had the lowest, even independent from school level or grade, or they had the lowest realized learning potential. So I wonder, is this exactly the point we just have been talking about, that when you would, for example, introduce there a kind of leader or lecture role, yeah, on the rider up, basically the right group, the CSE group has the lowest performance on the learning potential. So how do you share my opinion that this, or why do you think this has the lowest potential? Has this to do with roles or other things?
Hooggeleid opponents. I do share with your view that as you have like a different, in this case here, people with different roles in the group, especially in corporate search. So if you have people with, for example, high school, undergraduate, and graduate, so they, for example, if they had come together, you share different roles and, of course, different outcomes here. And if you have people, for example, that are both more experts, like if you consider a graduate more expert, you do gonna see then less. We don't have a figure here where we can see like all the combinations as possible of the roles in this experiment. But yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Thank you very much for your answers. I'm satisfied, Mr. Director.
Thank you very much, Professor Specht. Dr. Hauf, I invite you to continue your position.
Waarde promovendus, I want to continue with these search as learning questions, and in particular on your view about the evaluation that you did, right? So that was vocabulary learning, and there were certain findings, how search compares to search with video compared to video. To what extent do you think this holds if we would go away from vocabulary learning towards maybe more complex learnings?
Zeer geachte promotor. One thing that we can do in this scenario, as I mentioned, like is go away from vocabulary learning. So in chapter 5, we look mostly to vocabulary learning, where it's a simple task, and where if you look to the pyramid of learnings, right? So if you go to the Bloom's taxonomy, that's the lowest taxonomy, right? And we, in terms of collaborative search results, we didn't see that for this low level of this taxonomy, we obtained a relevant or significant results. As in the other chapters, we after this one, we were more concerned to have tasks that were difficult, because we found that collaborative search are very available when you have difficult tasks, right? So I would say answering your questions, that if you have a higher cognitive level, in this case, higher complex tasks, I believe that we could find better results, or collaborative searching play a better role for those tasks that are more complex than only a low-level tasks.
Thank you. So what you're saying is that these other tasks that we use beyond vocabulary learning are representative of higher levels of learning. So we could use them as a drop-in for searches learning, right?
Yeah, zeer geachte promotor. Yes, that's one aspect. So these tasks can also go for only single search as learning, right? So where we can use them, for example, tasks that take more time or long-term tasks, and people, as more people in the committee has already mentioned that when learning, there are also more tasks that are async, and those tasks are also more complex. And this will be also promising for search as learning. So as a higher the complexity, as more promising, I would say, for search as learning is.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, where do you see SearchX going? So what are the next big features that the next PhD students should implement?
Zeer geachte promotor. SearchX is, of course, under development. We're very happy to see being more used by the other teams in the group. I see that SearchX, in one part of our project was about sense making, right? Be able to make sure that the results, we make sense of them. So that's what I think we will develop, sense making tools where we can be able to compare the results and so on.
All right, thank you very much. I'm satisfied.
Thanks. Raaf. Professor Hoeben, invite you to continue your position.
Dank u wel, meneer directeur. Waarde promovendus. So now that you're at the end of this journey, you probably also have developed a view on, the research field. So following up a little bit on the previous question, now I invite you to look not only at what happens in a group, but also in the research field. And actually I was interested to know what your thoughts are that you can learn from collaborative search for collaborative research, for instance on search. So can you comment a little bit, can you give us advice on how to conduct in this research field research and, for instance, in collaboration? What did you learn there?
Ja, groot geachte promotor, met dank voor uw vragen. We see that collaborative search, when you do research, in collaborative search, we look to many aspects as I have mentioned here. So, for example, one of them are awareness, the other is sharing of knowledge, and division of labor. When we are doing research or collaborating with each other, I believe that we also should take care of these three things. So we need to be aware of what the person is collaborating, or how they are collaborating with us and what they are doing. So this, when you are collaborating with someone, that's our responsibility. Another aspect is the share of knowledge. So that's very, very responsible. So if you in a research group, the share of knowledge is, I think, one of the most important things in a group. And the other aspect, which is the last one, is in division of labor. So in division of labor, you need to be able to divide the tasks that you have. As in a group research, it's our responsibility to do that.
So if you take that one level up, so not just looking at the group, but at the whole community, then what would be the top priority that as a field one needs to get straight out?
Promoter, do you mean the collaborative search field itself, yes, exactly, or the information retrieval field? So
you have 30 seconds, so choose.
So I would say for the information retrieval field, in respect to collaborative search, is that collaborative search is a field where we often go information retrieval to search that goes alone, right? And we haven't seen this work, so this is a whole PhD thesis in 2022 where we are investigating collaborative search. So I would say that for the field as well, that I would like to ask them to look back to collaborative search as an important task, and also provide my recommendations that I have provided in the conclusions, right? That we should investigate what could be better in collaborative search. And I think as well, so this for example, things that right now we have research, a lot of research in information retrieval in, for example, more deep learning models and this kind of thing. And we could for sure be able to apply those ideas for collaboration as well. So I'll do also, and I think that this part is collaborative search is one is going to help them.
Thank you, Madam Beadle. Other promovendus and partners may invite you to take your seats in the room again. Ladies and gentlemen, the committee will withdraw for further deliberation in the committee room. The session is adjourned.
I think that's the best place to be. You're not answering, you're just sitting there. I think that's the best place to be because you are almost in front of where you will be defending, but you're not defending, you know? You're just sitting there. But I think it was also like a bit nice for me because some of the questions I can imagine being asked in my research as well. So it's not exactly. I heard a lot of breathing of Felipe.
How about the next PhD? What do they do? Search I'm almost over it. I'm not touching this anymore.
Yeah, I looked at you, laughing at that.
I'm not touching this. That's my baby. Yeah, sure. Yeah. The next one, if we start in 2022, 2023, I'm sure.
Already writing grants, you know, like from Felipe's ideas. It's like a 10-minute web.
Yeah, it's enough time for them to like pick coffee. No.
Failure, right? Can you imagine?
No. Nah. That third question, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Not this the death proposal about a Brazilian barbecue. You can find something better, right? I agree with this, but then
Will there be anyone who will disagree with the last proposition?
no, absolutely not.
I mean, there is some propositions. It has to be a like.
Brazilians would not agree. Everyone from They would probably agree, but people would probably say no.
I mean, some of the food is not important. It's not about.
So the question can be, what is it about?
What is it about?
What is it about? I'm asking you.
The event.
How can people drinking beer? If you're like between 16 and 21, maybe the goal should just get drunk as fast as possible. 18 to 21, about to drink as fast as possible. To 21, after that. After that, okay, let's meet. 26. Spanish.
If you think about people that you know,
The French disagree with you.
I agree, and also like a lot of English words are French as well.
but I think a lot of people that now have as their second language Spanish.
But most people who speak English doesn't speak English as a first language. It's a second, because in the past it was a main language, right? In the 1800s it was a main language. But like everything official, if you want to speak to the word, speak French.
But I think Felipe is on the right. Like in recent times, there have been more. I think that like most words that have been added to English are Spanish.
Oh yeah, sure.
In the recent times, I think.
So it's like, then you think about English in the United States.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
But still, that's like 200 million people.
But like, they just speaking Mandarin. They just speak English. Right?
But if you think like, I really focus, like what are the first languages that you learn? Spanish is really
Speaking Spanish, French, German, Italian, Chinese, Indian.
people have difficulty.
I think it's a script. I think the script is a very.
People want more.
So and also like Spanish has similar words. I think it is easy.
Everything was asked, right?
Sorry?
Everything was built for asking ASC.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Unicode is hard, man. Unicode is hard.
If you have a different script, then like, I mean, right now there's a lot of help, but I still don't type in my script. It's actually also difficult for in my script as well, like Bengali, but
It's just before I have, because they're scared. They see it and they're like, oh.
like my parents, they write into the Bengali script because right now it's very easy. You can just type your one in English, and then it automatically changes to. It's a very recent change though.
Because I can be something with the stupid. Please correct me. Like I meant that for every script there is a Latinization of that. For every word that was to speak, that you want to write in Bengali, there's probably like an Latinization of that, like in the regular alphabet.
And how you pronounce it, you can.
I guess. I mean, for me, some words, I think we have to try it.
Like if I were learning Bengali, that would be in English, right? That was okay, but I said have English.
One sentence, I would just read one.
Yeah, but you would have, right, you mean in the this is the word, like, thank you.
No, but yeah, I think that's how I used to communicate with my friends, right? Like that, just write it in English, but the word is Bengali. Just easier.
Sounds even more fun.
I think it's like wired, you know, like.
I can barely type in English.
You cannot type in English.
Barely. So, through. I never got it right.
Some words I think
dog, puppy, but then like.
No. Yoda is the name of another character of the same species.
It's a baby Yoda.
They don't have a name.
person.
These species don't have. Officially, this species doesn't have a name.
It's like calling Oliver baby Arthur.
Yeah. Even worse. It's calling Oliver baby Trump.
Yeah. Okay.
Baby.
Someone else's
Some random name.
So he's not related to us.
The baby.
No. The serious Sandra thing.
Well, not after everything. Everybody.
Get you.
Yeah, so people didn't know his name, they would call him baby Yoda. Then eventually he got it.
No, doesn't make sense.
They probably has a name that's someone really nerd knows the name of the species. Someone should know.
I think there's another one like from the same species.
And there's a Yoda. He's a woman. That appears in like one scene. No movie like in the background.
I mean, yeah, you almost think that Yoda is the species. Not you. You're a bastard.
That's the other one you see, right? It's like only Europeans that you have ever seen like Putin. And everyone is being Putin from now on. No.
Like maybe I don't really.
And then maybe I was getting someone famous that everyone hates. Equally. Yeah, I will. She was taking a natural something for them actually because someone has to be responsible.
Someone has to take care of the baby. One of these days, I'll have the night out.
Whenever you want. Bring him down, yeah, he'll be happy. Maybe for a few weeks.
Yeah, during December, like it was December 2021. So that's the only time that they can.
Thank goodness.
Very big.
It did look like 2 days before he was sick, but it was fine. But at that time, he was still like speaking a lot. Nowadays, he cries when he's angry. Now he's getting stronger, so his cries are stronger.
He has more opinion.
He's definitely a talker.
He became 2 days ago. So like, now especially a toddler who knows what he wants, knows how to get it. It's fun.
I kind of like it. It's fine.
These past few days have been tough with jet lag.
Just got back.
Putting him to sleep is not bad. Like usually for some nights, last 2 nights, he went to bed like it's exciting time. Then like later he will wake up or doesn't want to go back.
24-hour trip.
The moment, yeah. The flight was 11 hours. We came from Rio.
Real 1 hour short flight.
But this time around, the flight was 100% full, so we had to come on our laptop. Because he doesn't pay for
a seat.
Well, now he does, but until.
So we came back exactly 1 day before him. Because then with many tips, you need to pay for a seat. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. The same question. Also really good with handball.
And 2 hours, let's go.
He doesn't pay because he has to come on our lap. But the past travel, all true, because of COVID, everything was empty. So there were plenty of seats.
This time,
This was like a night flight, so we were supposed to
Also, you know what's really good? Scott here from Macedonia. Yeah, one of the best.
yeah, because usually it's like we go from our city to Sao Paulo. maybe for 1 hour. Then if you want, like, a 12 flight to them. But this time, if you went to Rio, like 500 euros cheaper. Yeah, we can endure a few hours with people on the airport for 500 euros.
People say it's more basketball. From when the moment you wake up and close everything, so you drive to the airport, and you have to wait, and then you fly, and then it adds up.
That's my typical travel.
It's so good for a day because then you're so tired that you just sleep. And like when you get home, like but then the next day you start to kind of adjust, but still be back
I reopen the session and request the promovendus and the paronyms to come in front of the committee. Het college voor promoties van de Technische Universiteit Delft, vertegenwoordigd door de hier aanwezige commissie, heeft, na kennis genomen te hebben van uw proefschrift met stellingen en na uw verdediging daarvan te hebben gehoord, met inachtneming van de bepaalde in de wet op het hoger onderwijs en het wetenschappelijk onderzoek, besloten u de graad te verlenen van doctor. Ik verzoek de promotor door het college voor promoties als zodanig aangewezen zich wel van de opgedragen taak te kwijten.
Uit kracht van de bevoegdheid bij wet toegekend aan het college voor promoties verklaar ik namens dat college, hier vertegenwoordigd door de rector magnificus en de overige leden van de commissie, bij deze u, Felipe Moraes Gomes, te bevorderen tot dokter en u alle rechten te verlenen welke aan de dokterstitel zijn verbonden. Ten bewijze hiervan overhandig ik u het diploma dat u het recht geeft de titel dokter te voeren, ondertekend door de rector magnificus en de promotoren en voorzien van het zegel van de Technische Universiteit Delft.
It is the promoter's privilege to be the first to congratulate the young doctor. Dr. Hauff, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I could do this without paper, but for security I just wrote it down, so we don't forget my thoughts. All right, so you did it. You have the red coker in your hand. Very well done. Congratulations. You know yourself, this was a very long and stressful road that started in 2017. It looked all very promising until kind of COVID hit us, right? But it came to a successful conclusion today after a great event where everybody thought you did very well, stayed on track, and very much to the point. Now you know yourself, you started out with a thesis about large-scale collaborative search based on this grant proposal where we had lots of ideas and visions, but you also know that our large very quickly turned to a handful of users, and our grant vision of using real learners and thousands of them after one experiment where nobody engaged with the search system we had in our platform, we kind of went the prolific way, right? So very quickly we learned that research is not as great as the plans we have for it. And you were actually the one on the receiving end of this because you were the one who had to execute this new plan. This was a bit of a shock to the system, but in the end, you know, you overcame it, and we also learned after your Amazon internship that we can do more than just learning-oriented search, right? So you also came up with this product search-oriented angle that worked very well in the end. So in the end, we had no large scale, not only learning, smaller scale, but learning plus product. Now, sometimes you introduced yourself as the senior PhD student of the team, which was true. You were the senior PhD student of the Lambda Lab, and you most certainly were the senior engineer, right? As also remarked by people in the committee who found this SearchX contribution, very important. And it's being used by Nirmal, by Arthur, by Sarah, by David. I hope I didn't forget anyone. And so you laid the groundwork for a lot of follow-up work, which is very important for the lab to function. Now, Nirma, for instance, told me that you also helped very much by the fact that you had actually the largest screen of all the PhD students in the lab, which I never recognized, but I got a few other complaints from other people in the audience as well. Why is your screen so large? You also know that you spent a lot of time making the Netherlands your home, right? You went to Brazil, you came back, but you also did a lot of Dutch things, which to me are very Dutch, like rowing, which was great. You signed up for Dutch language classes, and I think you're still kind of leading in the lab in terms of acquired language compared to everybody else who comes, does one level and says, thank you very much. You got engaged in the community here in TU Delft, but also in the group, which was great because we're always looking for people that kind of drive the social angle. And you not just were like saying, we need social events, you were actually also organizing them. So thank you very much for that. Now on the side, after all of this, you also became an expert in moving houses. I sometimes didn't know where you lived at the time, and because you were hopping from Delft to The Hague to Amsterdam, and I was guessing like you moved 7 or 8 times, but then Nirmal, your trusted friend, said no, he only moved 4 times. But the amount of times we talked about it, I felt you moved every few months. So there was a lot of going on. You moved to Seattle, so you were lucky to do this before COVID hit, very good. You came back, you got a car, you were very happy with the car, and you managed to do even more traveling. And one of the treats we got from you traveling is that you always brought back like sweets and fancy treats, especially when they came from Brazil. So thank you for that as well. Now, as you know, although it sounds like a lot of fun, actually the last 2 years were not so easy, right? You're a very social person. And COVID is like the horror of the social people. And so working in a room on your thesis by yourself mostly was very tough. You pushed through it, and hopefully you recognize that you have a lot of strength in you to actually push through these situations. And very lucky for you, tomorrow the country is opening up. So you finish your PhD just in time to actually enjoy living again. So thank you. I think in all of, in the name of all of Lambda Lab, you made lots of contributions to the team. It was a lot of fun working with you, and I hope you can take away this experience and say, okay, I'm ready for the next step. So congratulations.
Learned Dr. Moraes Gomes, you now have the right to use the title of doctor, and your doctorate means that the society can rely on your judgment, that you will act transparently and communicate independently about your results and the societal relevance of your work. In other words, your doctorate implies that you will uphold scientific integrity. I wish you a great deal of wisdom and prosperity with your new status. And on behalf of the Board for Doctorates of the TU Delft, I would like to congratulate you, also your paronyms, friends, family, and all your supporters here in the audience. Dear Dr. Moraes Gomes, may I ask you to go back to your seat in the room and your paronyms as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this ceremony. We have very much appreciated you being here witnessing this, and also I also say this to those who have followed this online. After this official part of the ceremony, we have an unofficial part, an informal part, which includes photo shoot and congratulations of the committee members. The Beadle will be in the lead for that. Having said that, I close the session.
Je mag gaan zitten en you can please come forward with the parliament for the photo. Misschien maybe you can take off your mask. Maybe you stand close to me.
Okay. Don't jump on breaking anyone.
No, it's okay. Paronyms, you can stand behind him again. Yeah. Professor van Breugel.
Dear Dr. Moraes Gomes, congratulations, also my personal congratulations. I hope you have enjoyed also this hour when you defended your thesis. I think you did a nice job, very calm and convincing. I think it was nice. And that you have enjoyed it, that you will not forget this moment in your life, which really ends in, that's a milestone in your career, and I wish you all the best in the future, wherever that will be. I hope that you will not forget Delft. In order to help you with that, we have a small gift for you, a book that has absolutely your interest, I'm sure. Having listened to what has your interest, I think that examining the effectiveness and so on must have your interest. But of course you have already read this book, I understood, yes? But not this one. This is also written by us. That means we put our signature in it as a souvenir of today. You miss, of course, a few signatures of your committee members that were online. So it's up to you to score them at any time it's convenient for you. Enjoy this day and all the best for the future.
So now I would like to give the committee members online the possibility to give their congratulations. Dr. Murdoch.
Felipe, congratulations. You're now a doctor. I want to caution you against giving medical advice without first doing a collaborative search on Medline and Wikipedia to diagnose all of those symptoms, which you will want to do because people will ask you now that you're a doctor. And so speak with great authority, use Wikipedia for all those medical decisions, and I look forward to seeing you at conferences and to see how your work develops in the future. So thank you very much. It was a great thesis and a very nice defense. Congratulations.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Professor Krusic.
Yeah, thank you very much. Congratulations also from me. As I said, it was a pleasure to read the thesis. I was most impressed how you managed to address all the concerns and critical comments I had within such a short period of time. It was excellent. I mean, it's really something like a role model, I think, for other students to follow. And I suggest we probably find the time where we can swap signature against drinks. So,
yes, love that.
At the conference.
Yes.
Professor Cesar Garcia.
So, Doctor, congratulations. You have done a great job. It was actually a fantastic thesis, and as well your answers to the questions. I mean, in some of the cases, maybe the methodology, you were wondering about the ACI part of things. But it was great. I think that the thesis itself, the topic, is so complex, it's so difficult how to deal with this type of searches in which you have several people. You don't know if it should be synchronous, asynchronous, and so you took decisions and you actually learn a lot. I could feel through the thesis as well difficulties and how difficult COVID was. It was obvious just by looking at the dates of the publications and things like that. So congratulations for that as well. I know it's super difficult time, so it's just difficult to get things done. So you did it great, and yeah, just enjoy your PhD.
Thank you.
So Professor Specht needed to leave. So, young doctor, the floor is yours for the final words.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank my committee members for taking your time for being here. And I think second, my supervisor, so Claudio Half. So I don't have words for how to say, but yeah, my sincerely thank you for all the learning, all the 4 years, so 4 years and a half. So I think for all the learning, yes, I learned a lot. So I think it was that the main point of the whole PhD to learn. And second, this is not fault without family and friends, and this, as some of you have learned, so this thesis goes to my parents, so mãe, pai, so é para vocês. Thank you, and yeah, so thank you all guys for being here, for listening to this 1 hour. It was really nice, and yeah, enjoy your evening.
Thank you for your kind words. This is the end of the informal part of this defense. Thank you very much for attending. Everybody who's online, you can close the lines now. Enjoy the rest of the day. And for the people here, time to celebrate. There will be a reception. My colleague standing there will bring you there. And enjoy and congratulations, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye.
Maybe you can bring his stuff, his belongings, so that he can go to the and he feels free to go there, yeah? Yeah. Have some, geef naar
Enjoy your last 8 hours of that. For a few weeks. Sorry. it was like,